Hi guys, it's Lisa Unger, and I am here with a very exciting guest, the New York Times bestselling author, Ace Atkins. I'm sure you already know of him, and he's super talented, also a very good friend, and I like to think of him really as a partner in crime. We have done so many appearances together, and all of those appearances involve bourbon, or most of
Always.
them. Don't you think that's true?
Everyone I can
Every single
remember.
one.
And even those I can't remember. It all goes back to Bourbon.
Especially those you can't remember.
Those are
Especially
special moments.
those. So Ace's new book is just about to come out in July, on July 14th, The Revelators. It's his 10th Quinn Colson novel. He also writes the Spencer books, by the late, great Robert Parker. He has continued the tradition of the Spencer character to great success. And when is that next one coming out? When is the next Spencer?
The next one will be out sometime around Thanksgiving. I don't know if it has an official pub date yet, but I'm actually still working on it right now. So we're hoping it's coming out.
Hope.
No, it'll be out. It's always like this. When you do 2 books a year, you have to. It's often cutting things very close. But yeah, new Spencer will be out in November.
Fantastic. And I just watched Spencer Confidential on Netflix, which I think I heard that it was like one of the top downloads on Netflix. And I loved it. I loved it. I thought it was great. I'm very partial to Mark Wahlberg, of course. So
Yes.
I thought they did a fantastic job.
I think they're supposed to be. It did very well, and so anytime anything gets streamed that much, you can guarantee for another one. And I think that if the pandemic hadn't hit, I think they would already be announcing that there's going to be another Spencer movie. So that's been the plan from the get-go, which is to kind of launch a brand new series. So we'll see what happens.
I'm sure that's exciting for, sort of the legion of Spencer fans. Although I'm sure they're always, everybody's always very vocal about what they want. When there's such an iconic character like that, there's always going to be somebody who's not quite getting what they want. But I think most people.
Yeah, there's been a lot of lively commentary on the adaptation. I'll say that, but I think it's a different vision than the books for sure. And I think that when you have a character like Spencer that so many people love and have been reading for almost 50 years now, they have their own mindset. And then of course with the iconic great Spencer for Hire TV show, which was very close to the books, I think that anything that deviates from the books that much is going to get kind of a lively discussion. So I always tell people, they based it on one of my books, but I did not write the script. So all the people writing those really nasty emails to me, just remember, that's not me. That's not me. That's somebody adapted my book.
Well, and I totally get that. I totally see, why, if you have a long time relationship with the character, why you would be angry if the character didn't, necessarily meet with your expectations. But I think for, maybe a whole new sort of suite of readers, like this is kind of a modernization and something that might bring them to the Spencer franchise in a new way. I
think so. I think that's the best case. Yeah, that could be the best case scenarios. Maybe it brings us some new readers. And again, it's pretty incredible. I've been doing this for 10 years now.
Yeah.
I came in, Bob Parker had written 39 books, and now I'm under contract to write books through number 50. And
wow.
So that's quite a legacy to keep up with. And it has readers from all over the world, and it's a fun job to have.
That's cool. That's very cool. Well, so we're here today to talk about a series of conversations that I've been having with my favorite authors and friends about 3 good things. There's a lot of negativity out there, a lot, and it's sort of my natural tendency to try to counteract that. So I wanted to sort of bring out some positivity, and I know a lot of us have been, locked up, quarantined. Some of us are starting to kind of reemerge, some faster than others, but mainly.
That reminds me, I'm going to pour a drink as you're explaining this situation.
Yeah.
Not that that's been of any help during these times, but
is that helping you? Why we talk about?
Pour another drink. Yes.
Yeah, go for it.
Continue the pandemic, please.
Yeah,
Please continue.
back to the pandemic.
Yes.
So we've all been doing a lot of reading and watching, and most of us have been doing a lot of cooking as well. So
Yeah.
I wanted to just ask, is there anything that you are reading right now that has really been sort of, exciting, that's kind of knocked your socks off? Or conversely, is there something that you kind of go back to again and again when you need comfort or inspiration or something like that?
Can this be a two-part answer? Is that okay, or does it have
It
to
can
be
be
just
as
one thing?
many parts as you want.
Okay.
There are no rules here.
I think there's a and the first answer, something that I've enjoyed a great deal, is there's a book called City of Margins by a guy named Bill Boyle. He is a buddy of mine, but of course, at least in this business, many of us are friends. Many of us know each other.
Yeah.
In a lot of ways, we get to be friends the way that you and I are friends, is I'm such a big fan of your work. And so that's a fun thing to be able to get to know authors. One of the great, side effects of being in the writing business. So anyway, William Boyle has this book called City of Margins. It's set in Brooklyn, where he grew up. In the early 1990s is when the novel is set. It's like Martin Scorsese, and it has kind of a screwball feel to it. It's dark, but it's funny at the same time. That's a book that I've read recently that I think a lot of. And then as far as more of a classic story that I go back to, I've been reading a lot of Westerns lately. I think that just, when things hit and, we're looking at, kind of the society changing a little bit and looking to get back to
the
more
Wild
simple.
West out there.
Yes, the Wild West out there. And so I've been reading, going back to some of the classic Westerns like Shane. And then for the first time, I came across a book that I had always known about, but one of those novels that's on my shelf that I had not read, called Welcome to Hard Times by E.L. Doctorow, who wrote Ragtime and Billy Bathgate and all those great novels. And it was his first book from 1959. And it was just terrific. It was the first time in a very long time that I was really fully transported into a book, where I couldn't wait to get back to reading it, because I felt like I was so a part of that story and was totally immersed in the book. So those are a couple of things that have helped me get through, along with alcohol, have helped me these last few months.
Yeah, and it's funny that you should say that, because I think we're all readers first. I've said this a couple times on this show, that all writers are readers first, and that we never stop being that. We never stop being that, when you open a book and you just kind of get that little jolt of excitement, like, oh, this is going to be so great. And that you can disappear into somebody else's story for a while. And that's such a gift, when you have writers who are your friends and who you love their books. When you get their book, you get to, kind of spend time with them in that way. But it also recharges your writer batteries. Do you know what I mean? Like, it gets you to a place where you just feel, as if you've just kind of been refilled by somebody else's, talent and their exciting story and all of that. Might be having a little glitchy with my internet connection. Is it okay? Are you getting
It's good. It got glitchy for a second, but you're back. Okay,
perfect. So yeah, so like we all like sort of recharge our writer batteries in other people's books.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I don't think there's anybody that's worth its salt as a reader. I mean, as a writer, that isn't a fan of books. I mean, I have run across those people maybe once or twice at writers' conferences that admit they're not really great readers, but they want to be a writer. And I think that's just, kind of an insane statement. But no, I think what you said about going back to recharge your batteries, recharge your batteries as far as just being inspired, and I'd read something like my buddy Bill's book, and I think, boy, that's so fantastic and so funny and so lively, and it makes me want to get back and write more. He's writing about Brooklyn, and I write about the Deep South and about Boston, and then the same thing with reading this Western. I was just marveling at how fantastic it was, and the language and the dialogue and everything was so rich. It made me excited to be a writer. It made me excited to want to go back and to write another story. And I think that's crucial for all of us. We're all under deadline. We're all you're a very prolific writer. We're always under deadline, but to go back and understand why we do this and why it's important to us, I think is
and that's really why. I mean, that's where we all fall in love with it. As kids, usually, we fall in love with that.
You and I were both very fortunate to both meet Judy Blume, and that's probably the only time that I ever truly kind of geeked out as a writer. meeting another author. We meet authors all the time, and we go to book conferences and whatever.
Yeah.
But when I met Judy Blume, it was just like, wow, this is like a
Yeah, she's so amazing. Yeah, and I did get to, where we appear often together, I got to interview her on stage, and that was amazing for me. And then my daughter was in the audience with her fourth grade class, and they were reading her book. And I've read all her books. Tiger Eye is like sort of my all-time favorite Judy Blume book. And I told her that, and she was like, "That's so funny." She's like, "That's my son's favorite one of my books." I was like, for me, it's it's very much so almost a mystery, almost like it has that kind of mysterious beating heart. And so that was one of my favorite books. But just being able to talk to her on stage was,
no,
wow.
she's an icon. When you think about the readers, that you and I have reached over the years, you think about somebody like Judy Blume, and not only does she reach readers every year, but she's been doing this for decades and decades and longer than we've been alive, and just a grateful fan base.
Yeah, she's amazing. And so also, so speaking, we were talking a little bit about Spencer Confidential, and a lot of us, we're in love with stories, so we're not just reading, we're watching TV and movies and pretty much everything. Is there anything that you're watching right now that you're finding very exciting, or just again something that you kind of go back to?
Well, I go back to there's kind of the part, you're talking to another writer. They want to impress you with their knowledge of what they've, I've been reading Count of Monte Cristo, and I've been watching a lot of masterpiece theater,
Yeah, okay, good.
No, yeah, sure. All
right, now really.
I love classic movies, and I always go back to watching TCM. There's always, there's always a great film on TCM. There's, one of the films that really inspire me are movies not only from the 1970s and that kind of gritty realism, but also the funnier, kind of darker movies from the 1930s, the early 1930s, and during the Depression. Those films, to me, are some of the best written films anywhere. And I think the reason why is because back before we had, special effects, and before, directors became, household names, the writer was a key part of that. And so the scripts are just absolutely wonderful. So I've been watching a lot of films from that period, a lot of gangster stuff, just wonderful, movies like Barbara Stanwyck. There's a film I watched just recently called Hideout, which is an amazing film. Clark Gable, well before Gone with the Wind, was making some of these movies, playing the heavy and the bad guy and the romantic lead, and he was just terrific. But then, I'm also watching stuff at night with my kids.
Okay.
So I'm watching Lost in Space on Netflix.
Oh, I love Lost in Space.
It's just fantastic. Talk about good writing. Good writing. I know. And it's a brilliant show to watch. Great special effects and all that.
Yeah.
It's got very human stories, and my kids love it. And it's one of the few things we can, in our family, we all can, agree on. And Lost in Space is so fantastic. And the only thing that's bad about it is it's about to end. And so we're at the end of season 2, and then season 3 won't be with us for another few months.
Yeah, that is definitely, and I that's true too, because a lot of times you watch stuff with your kids and you're just watching it to be with them. You're not necessarily excited about the content. So it's really exciting when you can watch something that you're super into. And when season 1 ended on Lost in Space, we were bereft. We were just like, what? No. And we felt the same way again at the end of season 2. And another show that we've been watching together. Have you guys watched Stranger Things?
Oh, of course.
God, we're obsessed. We were obsessed. Yeah. We were obsessed with that. So that's definitely something. And that's one that we rewatch. We watch that again and again.
Oh yeah, and for people of our generation, growing up in the 80s, it's just the nostalgia is so heavy in it. But what a terrific show! No, we've gone through Stranger Things a few times.
Yeah, we watch that again and again. So it is nice when the kids get, Ocean's 14 now. So now we're sort of at that moment where we're actually watching things together, that we both kind of enjoy. So that's a good thing.
That is a good thing.
So most of us too are, we we're, obviously we're reading, we're watching, but there's another thing happening in the home. In the home is that there's just like a lot more cooking. We were always big cooks, but now we're basically just cooking all the time. Is that true for your family, or is there something that
Yeah, I mean, we're serious about this, and we've been serious about it from the beginning, which is, we're not, we read the newspaper, we know what's going on, we know what the rates are out there.
Right.
We're not taking any chances, and in order to do that, yeah, you got to make the home as exciting and more interesting than ever. And so for us, yeah, I mean, we're cooking a lot of food, and of course, I cook as well as my wife cooks. We've recently learned how to make our own sushi. That was something that we never did. We really miss going to the sushi restaurants, but of course we don't want to run back to the sushi restaurants right now.
Not quite yet.
And so we have learned how to do that, and getting very good at the cutting, very good at we're fortunate to have a local market here that does curbside service, that we can get our food very safely and take it back home. So anything like that we really miss, anything that the kids say, I wish we had sushi tonight, we can do that. If it's something that we live in Mississippi, so we also, besides sushi, we also like fried catfish. And so we've learned how to do fried catfish at home too. So anything that just makes, life a little easier.
Or more fun too. Like,
more fun,
you like sort of, that like, going out to dinner thing is like something that we kind of, we all do for entertainment, I think, in some ways. It's like that's our outing and, all of that. So that's definitely something we miss. But we also love this time being, just at home cooking and experimenting and doing more. And I've gotten so many recipes from this, just from doing this 3 Good Things with my author pals. Like, I got a spicy white bean soup from Alifair, and Lisa Scottolini and her daughter were on, and they talked about this watermelon salad that my family is totally addicted to now. So I've been getting some new recipes.
Well, I'll give you one recipe. It was a recipe I kind of forgot about, but it was one of the first things I ever cooked for my wife, and one that I like so much that I actually put it in the very first Spencer book that I wrote. And one of the things that I wanted to do in the Spencer books, I never really wanted to change things up very much or try to put my personal stamp on it. But when Spencer cooks, he is now cooking more Southern inspired food. And instead of drinking scotch, he's drinking more bourbon. Okay. And so one of the first recipes that I did, when this sounds very unusual, this sounds very, very strange, but I'm telling you, it's delicious, which is, it's andouille sausage with sweet potatoes, and you serve it over a bed of cheese grits. So,
wow.
Make your cheese grits, you then saute together some onions, andouille sausage, you pre-cook your sweet potato, and you just kind of, mix it up in a skillet, use some kind of Cajun spices, and then add in a little bit of, this sounds very weird, but trust me on this, just a little bit of maple syrup.
Oh,
and take that, and you serve it over the bed of cheese grits. And it's truly one of the best things I've ever had.
That sounds amazing. We are totally doing that.
Yeah, and it's easy. It's very easy. You just have to, pre-cook the sweet potato, but after that, everything it's sautés pretty quickly.
Perfect. That sounds amazing. Does it have a name or not really? Just like
I don't think so. It's just
I'm gonna call it Ace Atkins.
The andouille and sweet potatoes over cheese grits.
Okay. Wow. That's definitely right to the point. So I would be remiss if I did not mention Tampa Bay Noir, which was edited by our wonderful Tampa Bay Times book review editor Colette Bancroft, and there's some of our pals have contributed. Craig Pittman, Lori Roy, Michael Connolly, Tim Dorsey, I think Sarah Gerard, I think, and I hope I'm not leaving anybody out. Gail Massey, I'm sure I'm leaving out a bunch of people, but not intentionally. So it's going to be a very exciting release this summer, I think. So I'm sure we're going to wind up doing some kind of a Zoom.
I think the whole idea was, I think we were going to be launching it, or at least promoting it more during the Tampa Bay Times Festival, which we won't be able to do this year, but you and I always do every year, and we've done that for countless times, and that would have been a lot of fun. But this was fun. This is part of that Akashic
Yeah.
noir collection that for your viewers, that they know what this is. They do every city in the world. They do,
Yeah.
they do London noir, they do New Orleans noir, they do Celtic noir, they just everything. And so I've been fortunate to be in a few different collections because I move around a lot. And so I've been in Mississippi noir. I'm originally from Alabama, I did the Alabama noir, but I also spent a huge portion of my life as a newspaper reporter in the Tampa Bay area. And so Colette was nice enough to ask me to submit a story, or to bring a story to her. And I actually brought out a story that's loosely based on something that I covered as a newspaper reporter back around 2001. And it always had kind of, stayed with me. And the thing about being a newspaper reporter is sometimes there is not a satisfying conclusion. There's not something that you can actually, there's not an end to the story. Sometimes, a lot of times, you're just writing an open-ended story where somebody's going to court or somebody's been arrested. And for me, that's the fun about being a crime writer, is that you can actually come up with a ending. And that's what this story was. It was something that was very loosely inspired by some people that I knew that I covered when I was a newspaper reporter. And then I was able to bring it back to Tampa Bay.
Awesome. Well, I'm really excited about that. And I hope we get to do something to celebrate it. And we don't know what's going to be by the fall. So we'll just sort of, think a good thought, as my grandmother would say, and hope for the best. And in the meantime, I'm thrilled that we get to talk on Zoom about three good things.
Well, I mean, this is the nice thing. I mean, there are some side effects that have been good, and that's keeping up with friends. And I have some very good buddies that are spread out from New York to, even friends of mine that I don't see that are less than a mile away. And, we get together for cocktail hour, at least once a week, and sit down and talk. And in some ways, we probably catch up more with each other than we did before.
Yeah, I have found that as well. And I've found that I've just been able to, reach out to everybody that I miss and say, hey, do you want to do this? And everybody's like, yay, I do. And so it's been a really nice, I always think of myself as an extreme introvert, which I am, but maybe not so much, maybe not this much of an introvert. Maybe I still need to hang out with my friends.
Yeah. If you're an introvert, you hide it very well, Lisa.
I really am. I know it's hard to believe. But it only just means that you're nourished by solitude, as opposed to
well, you and I have discussed that in the past. I think that's the sometimes the rub in being a writer is one of the reasons we became writers is so people will leave us alone.
Exactly.
And make a living, here I am in my office. And, for the most part, most of the year, I'm left alone. And then twice a year, I'm out on book tour. And it's like, okay, now go entertain people, go dance, go entertain these people, make them laugh, do it. And you're like, wait a second, I just got left alone for the whole year. Why are you doing this? So I think the core of it, we do like to be.
I mean, I think you're nourished by that. The other stuff, even if being an introvert doesn't mean that you're shy necessarily. It doesn't mean that you can't talk in front of a group, or that you don't like people or can't connect with people. Like, that's definitely not true of introverts. All that it means is that, you need to recharge after that. Whereas the extrovert, they recharge by being out there.
Yeah. I think we've recharged too much. We're like the iPad that's the charger for 5 weeks. We're buzzing to get out there. Give me a good book signing right now, book tour. I'll pack the bags. I'll be out there tomorrow. But we won't. We won't be able to do that for a while. We're on hold. We are fortunate to be in a line of work that is something that people want right now. And I think this escapism, whether it's film, which is not in production right now, or TV, which is not in production right now, but with books, that's providing a level of comfort. And I know it provides comfort for me. And I'm grateful for the readers now that are supporting us, supporting our families, that are still buying and reading books. So we're how often have you ever said, like, I'm so lucky to be in the publishing business? The publishing business is such an old-fashioned kind of way of life, and such an old-fashioned business. But we are indeed very fortunate to be in that business right now.
Yeah, and that is the thing that is one of the things that I love the most about publishing. I mean, I know in some ways it does feel like an old-fashioned business. And sometimes when you're talking about, marketing and promotion, stuff like that, like that's not necessarily a compliment. But when you're talking about how how people have always needed and wanted story forever. It's a human drive to narrate and to have story told to you. And as much as publishing changes, and as much as that becomes, as much as things are different, so different from when you and I published our first book about 1.5 million years ago to now, like everything's different, but that has not changed. The desire to tell a story, the desire to receive a story, that's a human drive. That's a basic need, I think. And I'm grateful.
And I think now too, is I think the type of stories that we tell, the type of stories that you tell, I tell, we're essentially, hero-driven stories or danger-driven stories, which is people being, these are not introverted type stories. These are not stories that are just taking place in somebody's head that's dealing with navel gazing. Like, these are people with real problems, real trouble, real danger that they're trying to confront, they're trying to get there. And I think that those kind of books, those kind of stories are as old as the people painting on the walls of the cave,
Absolutely.
To hunt the mastodon or whatever and coming back. I mean, that's what we tell as people that confront hard times, confront danger, confront trouble, and come back to tell the story. And I think that's what people want to hear right now. And I think for me, those are the kind of books that I always fall back upon.
Yeah, and the good guy always wins, and justice is always served, and that's what we try to, in one way or another.
I hope so.
Oh, me too.
I think that's the thin line that separates crime novels from noir. And I think hopefully we're living where the good guys will win, and hopefully we're not living in a noir world. I'm certainly hoping so.
Yeah, me too. And on that note, I will draw a conclusion to 3 good things. Please check out Ace Atkins. If you have not, I'm sure you have. You're probably, a longtime reader of Ace, but you can find out everything you want to know about him at aceatkins.com. And you can find out everything you want to know about me at lisaunger.com. And I hope you will. And, keep reading and keep cooking and keep watching. And we're grateful for our readers. Writers are nothing without the people who pick up their books and read. So we're super grateful to you, and be well and be safe. And I will see you very soon.